Hey guys, welcome back. So in this video we'll be talking about lambdas in Python. So we'll be seeing as to all the functionalities of lambda and why people in some use cases like to use lambdas instead of normal functions. Okay, so let's say I have a function called add, which will be adding any number, which will by 5, so it will return the value plus 5. So now let's call the function. Let's say I have add 4, so let's print this out as well. Print. Okay, so now this should give me 9 as the answer, right? Because it adds 5 to the value, and there you go, I get 9. What if I told you that I could do this exact same thing in a much shorter manner? So let's say I had the exact same variable add. Now I would use a lambda function. Now I would do something like this. Now let's see if I get the same answer or not. And there you go, I get 9 as the answer. So as you guys can see, lambda functions are much shorter and much faster to write than normal functions if the function is short. So let's learn the syntax for lambda. So lambda begins with the lambda keyword, of course. After the lambda keyword, you can pass in the arguments, x in this case, and then you put a colon, and then you're supposed to define as to what you want the function to do. So in my case, I wanted to add 5 to the number, so I put x plus 5. So now I could change this a bit. Let's say I have x comma y and I wanted to do x into y. Even this would work. Now I would put 4 comma 5 and I should be getting 20 as the answer. Let's run this, and there you go, I get 20 as the answer, right? So yeah, so now lambdas lambdas are also special for one thing, that is known as immediately invoked function execution. Okay, so now let's learn what that is. So let's say I want to print out something, a lambda function to be exact, and I wanted to do x into 2. Okay, so now let me enclose this in brackets, only then will it work. So now here I defined my lambda function. Okay, so now this is capable of something known as immediately invoked function execution, which means that I can call the function right after I make it. So now right after I made this function, I could call the function. So if I put in 4 over here, I should be getting the answer as 4 into 2, that is 8, right? Let's see. And there you go, I get 4 into 2, 8. Now if it weren't for this, I would have to do something let's say I could do multiply equals, then I have to copy this entire thing down, and then I should have done something like this, right? Now even this would give me the exact same output. Okay, but this is much more long, right? So that's why we use immediately invoked function execution, because it's much shorter. Okay, so now lambdas can also be used as arguments for other functions. Okay, so now we have a bunch of things to learn. We have map, filter, reduce, and sorted. So we'll be going through each of them one by one. So let's talk about map first. So map is a function which can take another function as an argument. So are filter and the other functions. Okay, so now we can use lambda for that. So now let's say I have a list called L, which has these elements in it. Okay, now let's say I wanted to multiply every element in the list by itself and update the list. So I'll make a variable called answer. Okay, and I'll be using the map function over here. So why did I use map? So the map function is used when you want to modify every element of the list in the same exact way. So now if I do map, so as you can see, the syntax is you're supposed to first pass in the function and then the name of the list. So now I will make a function lambda x. Now I want to multiply every element by itself, so I'll do x into x, right? And now comma and the name of the list, that is L. Okay, now let's see what I get when I print answer out. Whoops, typo. And yeah, let's see what I get as the answer. And there you go, I get this weird thing as the answer. So like I get a map object. So how do you convert a map, a map object to a list? You basically like just put list here and enclose the entire thing into list. The object gets converted to a list, and now I should be getting the modified list. And there you go, I get this list, right? Because 1 into 1 is 1, 2 into 2 is 4, and so on. Okay, so now this is like how we use map. So like just a reminder, map is used when you want to like modify every element of a list in the same exact manner. So now let's say I want to work with filter. So like I'll say what filter does exactly. So filter has a keyword called filter, and they will like take in the exact same thing, that is a function and a list. Okay, so now what filter does is it can choose particular elements from a list. Basically like what I mean by that is like it won't affect every element. So like let's say for example I wanted every element in this list L that is bigger than 2. So I could do lambda x, lambda lambda x colon x should be bigger than 2. Now comma and put L. So if I do this, I'll again get the filter object. I have to put a list over here to convert it to a list, and I would get every element from the from list L that is bigger than 2, and there you go, I get 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so like this is where you can use filter. Like when you want only elements with particular values from an entire list, you can use filter for that. So now like some people like might say like this is like not the most appropriate way to do this. Like there are many other ways of doing this exact same thing. Like you could also use list comprehension. So instead of doing this, I could like make another variable called answer2, which would be x for x in L if x is bigger than 2. So like this to do the exact same thing. Okay, so print answer2. Okay, now let's run this and we should be getting the same thing, and there you go, we get the same output. So like it's basically like your choice as to which method you want to use. Okay, like I just showed you in both methods. So now apart from filter, we could also mess around with sorted. Okay, now what do I mean by that? So now let's say I have a list with nested list. Okay, so let's say in this I have -5, 1, in this -12, 0, and in this 5, let's say -3, or let's say -2 for example. Okay, because why not? So now how do you like sort? So now I could put a variable called answer equal to sorted of L. So now if I print answer out, I should be getting the sorted value of the list L, right? And there you go. It is like it gives me in the basis like of ascending order. So I get -12, -5 and 5. So if you guys notice something in this, it is they are sorting the list according to the 0th index of the nested list, right? Because I get -12, -5 and 5. Now let's say for example I wanted to sort the list according to the first index of the nested list. So how would I do that? So after L I could put a comma and I could put key. Key will be equal to a function. So I could put lambda x colon. Then what I want to do, I want to sort everything according to the first index. So I could put x square bracket 1. So what this will do is this will sort the entire list based on the first index. So let's run this, and there you go, I get 5 minus 2 minus 12 0 and minus 5 1, right? Because minus 2 is the smallest and 1 is the biggest. So yeah, that's how you can mess around with sorted. Okay, so like just like a small note, like in all the map, filter and sorted functions, like where I'm using lambda, you could also use normal functions for this. Like I'm just like showing this with lambda like to like to teach you about its functionality. Okay, and like lambda is like also much shorter. Okay, so like if I wanted to like do this with a normal function, I would like have to define a whole function. So I have to do define func, let's say x, and return x of 1. So even this would do the exact same thing, right? So instead of key of lambda, I could just put func. Now let's do cls. Now when I run this, it should be giving me the same output. Let's run this. And there you go, it's still giving the same output. So the only reason I'm like using lambda is because it's much shorter. Okay, so now let's talk about reduce. So now how do I, okay, now let me import reduce. So you're supposed to import it. Okay, so let me do cls first of all. Let's import. So I can import it from func tools. From func tools, import reduce. Okay, so now let's say I have a list that is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, now I will be using reduce over here. So now what does reduce do actually? Okay, reduce will perform a particular operation to every element of the list. So like some of you like may like get confused with map and reduce. Okay, but if we do the same thing with map, it won't work. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Like even reduce will first accept a function and then a list or whatever. So a function, I could put lambda x comma y colon x into y. Okay, now comma l. So now what I am like so like what I want this reduce function to do is I want to multiply every element in the list with each other. So what I mean is like I want 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So I put x into y for l. So now if I print it, I should be getting the total multiplied value of every element of the list. Let's see. And there you go, I get 120, right? 5 into 4 is 20, 20 into 3 is 60 and 6 into 2 is 120. But if I try to like do the same thing with lambda, I mean with map, it would give me an error like saying because y is not defined. Okay, let's convert this to a list. Let's see. Okay, now it would give me an error saying, and there you go, it is missing a required positional argument called y. So basically like if you're using map on any list, like you can like use only one argument. Okay, so let me get all this off and let's say I just want reduce over here. Okay, so like this will perform a particular function to every element of the list. So now I could like change this. Now let's say I wanted x plus y. So we'll do 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So it's 9, 12, 14, 15. So I should get 15 as the answer. Let's do CLS and let's run this. And there you go, I get 15 as the answer. So hopefully you guys understood the difference between the different functions like we can use. Okay, so we have learned about map, reduce, filter and sorted. So you basically use lambda like if it's a one-time use case, or like if the function like has like a very small thing to execute. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any doubts, do leave them in the comment section below and I'll be sure to answer them. And that's it for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And that's it. Bye, and I'll see you in the next one.